As Alex and I were looking over what I had remaining of notes last hour, we're getting close.
Actually,
Yes.
On Wednesday? When you come back?
Yes.
On Wednesday, which Wednesday?
Next Wednesday.
Okay.
Not tomorrow.
She came in and she was like, "You're behind."
You're kidding.
Like, are we behind? And I was like, "Well, when are we having a test?" And he was like, "Oh, it's next."
How do we compare our class to them?
You were there too.
They watch videos.
I wasn't paying attention to that.
If you miss class, you're supposed to watch it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm live and in person. And so, listen, we're going to finish probably tomorrow, the notes for this chapter. Okay? And Jewel finally took her test, and I graded it. So I can hand back your other test. Okay?
We've taken the test since possible.
Yeah. Do you remember when I said, is this an honors class? You wouldn't know it by the scores on the test. You remember that? I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
All right, let's go. Now, Roosevelt, we just did Social Security, right? How many parts of Social Security are there?
3.
Were you writing about that on the test?
Yes, and the long
All
answer
right.
were 6.
Now, we got to tax the rich here, okay? We got to get some money to do all this stuff, all right? So he's going to move against wealth and power. Not the extent of Huey Long, though. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you guys remember last year studying antitrust laws, monopolies, and all that, right?
Yes.
Breaking them up. Okay. So you're going to see a little bit of that, all right? So breaking up large conglomerates, gas companies, electric companies. Okay. I'm old enough to remember when there was one telephone company. Bell Telephone. Controlled the whole country, Bell Telephone. Then they broke it up. Okay, and you got a bunch of, like, you had Bell South. Okay, and we got some other ones. Okay, now we got a bunch, right? That's called competition. Hopefully brings down the cost. Okay, my wife tried to cancel our Cox phone the other day. Oh, what a mess. Okay. But it worked out because our bill went from $290 a month to $220 a month.
Oh, yeah.
And we still have a phone. That doesn't work.
And you're gonna get into mobile.
Yeah, as soon as your mom goes and gets it. Okay. So they broke up the big conglomerate, and then this was one of your homework questions about the Interstate Commerce Clause. Now, I think I had like 11 do it this time. Woo. Okay. Because the test scores were not too good. Okay.
I was like, I did that.
Oh, he did not look at you. Stop.
I don't have to, I can look anywhere in the room and get that.
Oh, really?
Trying to hurt my feelings.
Just not specifically at a couple people.
And it's working.
Oh, it just stared me down.
Yeah.
I got a B+.
What did I get?
Now, to do the homework, that may bump to an A-. Right, Heidi?
Right, you should do it now. Not at the end.
Right. The homework helps. Heidi.
Yeah. I wanted to do the homework.
You wanted to,
Yeah, I did.
but you didn't.
She didn't want you that bad.
No, I wanted.
I gotta-
I only
that
gave you
night-
like a week to do it.
She definitely forgot it was due Wednesday.
I did, because I was talking to Lily about it Friday, and I was like, I think I forgot to turn in the homework last night. She's like, that was due like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Okay, so Interstate Commerce Clause. All right, so it gave the federal government the power to regulate. Now, the Interstate Commerce Clause has always been in the Constitution. It's always been in there. It's just rarely ever been used. Okay. Well, when Roosevelt's president, guys, it's going to be used. Okay, so let me give you an example how the Interstate Commerce Clause works. So let's say you build houses for a living. Okay. Now, you build houses in Kansas for a living. Now, the wood that you get to build the frame, did we cut down those trees in Kansas? No, we don't have any trees. Okay. We had to import those probably from Canada. That's probably where the lumber comes from, Canada. Okay, so that's crossing state lines, yes? So that means the federal government, because you use interstate commerce, can regulate your industry. The nails that you use to pound into the frame, were those nails made in Kansas?
No.
What about the roofing materials? No. Now, if you're in the roofing business, okay, and you buy roofing materials from across state lines, guess what the government can regulate? Your roofing business. And that means you fall under OSHA rules and so forth. This is how it works. This is how it works. Which gives us probably 95% of all the regulations that the national government has on our businesses are because of this. Okay, the Interstate Commerce Clause. Now, rarely will you do a business in Kansas that does not involve some interstate commerce. Okay? It's hard to even imagine that kind of business. Now, if you have a lawn mowing business, right? Where'd you get the lawnmower? Where was that made? I don't know.
Right here in
John Deere's made in America, but I think, right? Maybe some of the parts are made in China. I don't know. But I don't know if they're made in Kansas. You know what I mean? No, it was made somewhere else.
Why do we even need the interstate commerce clause? We all use the same currency. All from the same country.
This is just, it's a regulatory tool.
It's always been there,
It's always been there. It's just rarely used
so
before
it's
that.
probably more like when there's more of like separation between states.
Yeah, because a lot of stuff you used to use, was in state. But now with, technology, transportation, trade, it's, it just opens the door for this.
What about like steel in Pennsylvania?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could that be, or is that,
Yeah, I mean, if
Is that what
if
they
you
was
buy the steel from Pennsylvania and use it in Kansas,
no, like if you,
if everything is made in Pennsylvania and you live in Pennsylvania, then it would not qualify. Interstate.
therefore the government can't regulate.
Right. Oh, I'm sure they'll find another way, but this is usually the way. Okay, labor unions. We talked about this. Some labor unions were not happy with the National Recovery Administration, didn't feel like it went far enough to protect unions. They called it the National Runaround. All right. So Congress passes the National Labor Relations Act, which creates the National Labor Relations Board, which is still around today. Now, guys, I tend to talk about unions quite a bit in here because I think there's a lot of people who don't really understand them very well. Okay, because you've probably never been part of one yet. Now, this National Labor Relations Board is still around today. Okay, now they guarantee the right of all workers to be able to join unions. Okay, now I don't know if you heard about what happened, and I think it was in Alabama, where Jeff Bezos had an Amazon warehouse. Okay, and they voted that they were going to have a vote where to unionize. Okay. Well, that vote failed, but the NLRB said that there was fishy stuff going on, so they called for a new vote. That's the kind of stuff the NLRB can do. Okay. Stop unfair practices against unions by businesses. Okay. Now, we haven't talked about this yet. We will. But guys, some states are called right to work states, where you can live and work in a job and not be forced to join a union. Some states are called union shops, where if you work in a certain industry that there's a union, you can be forced to join that union. Okay, you follow me? So if you are a sheet metal worker for Boeing or Spirit, okay, Spirit helps build the fuselage for the 737 MAX, okay, and here in Wichita. You with me? If you you are a sheet metal worker, there is a sheet metal workers union. In Kansas, you do not have to join that union. You can benefit from the union doing a contract with Boeing or Spirit. You can benefit from that, but you don't have to pay your dues. If you live in Washington State, which is where Boeing's headquarters is in Seattle, yes, they are a union shop. So if you are a sheet metals worker in Seattle, you have to join the union. You do not have a choice, which means you have to pay union dues, and those come out of your check every month. Okay? Well, your state gets to decide whether it's a right to work or a union shop. Okay? About 10 years ago, Boeing wanted to build a new plant in South Carolina. This plant would employ over 500 people, and there would be sheet metal workers among engineers as well, because there's an engineering union as well at Spirit, okay? But you don't have to join in Kansas. And what do you think South Carolina is? A right to work state or a union shop? The right to work state. Now, when you don't have a union, you think the wages are lower or higher? Lower, yes, okay? So the wages for sheet metal workers in Seattle are good, okay? They want to build a plant in South Carolina where they can pay people less, yes? The union went to the NLRB and said, these are unfair practices that Boeing wants to build a plant in South Carolina. They're trying to do damage to the union in Seattle by building this new plant. Now, this is interesting. The NLRB has 3 people on it. And these positions are filled by presidential nominations. So 2 of the 3 were nominated by Democratic presidents, and 1 was nominated by a Republican president. And the NLRB voted that Boeing building a plant in South Carolina was an unfair business practice against the union in Seattle. 2-1. Now, the 1 resigned in protest, saying this is not what we're here for. If Boeing's a private company and they want to build a plant in South Carolina to create 500 new jobs and pay people $25 an hour, can you live on $25 an hour in South Carolina? Yeah. A little harder to do in Seattle, right? The cost of living is a lot higher. It is really high. I've been to Seattle and it's expensive. Okay. So yeah, it took about 4 or 5 years for the NLRB to reverse that decision. Probably a whole bunch of campaign contributions, some lobbying and so forth to get them to change their mind. And so Boeing went ahead and built a plant in South Carolina. Okay. Now you guys know Boeing left Wichita, right? A few years ago. There was no Spirit when Boeing was here. When Boeing left, any of you guys have family members that work for Spirit? Okay. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but this is basically what happened. Even though this is a right to work state, the wages for the workers at Boeing were good. Really good. Good benefits, good wages, okay? You can afford the 2 jet skis in the backyard, okay? Now, for Boeing to compete internationally, who's the biggest competitor to Boeing building aircraft? Passenger, Airbus. Where are they located? Paris, France. They're French, okay? Now, in France, they have universal health care, yes? So, the workers that work for Airbus in Paris, Airbus doesn't have to pay for their health insurance. Where if you work for Boeing, one of the perks of working at Boeing is they pick up part of your health care costs, your health insurance, yes? So Boeing is trying to pay employees that are getting a really good salary here in Wichita, okay, and compete selling aircraft internationally with Airbus. And they're at a disadvantage because France pays for the health care for all those employees for Airbus. Yes? Follow me? So Boeing, in order to make a profit, which that's why you go into business, most people go into business to make money and work for themselves, okay? Make a profit. They decided to spin off a new business called Spirit and renegotiate the contract with those workers to pay them less, and they would continue to have jobs here in Wichita. That's why we have Spirit. Follow me? Okay? So that's kind of the way of the world, guys. You know. But like I said, this is the National Labor Relations Board is still around today. They do play a role, like there's going to be a threatened strike. Sometimes they'll have a mediator or an arbitrator. Remember we learned about that? Arbitrators and mediators, right? Okay. And what is the difference? An arbitrator, arbitrator's legally binding, and then a mediator just, they try and settle the difference between two sides. Okay. An arbitrator's official. So you bring in an arbitrator to settle the difference between two sides, and you both agree that we're going to go with what the arbitrator says, you go with what the arbitrator says. Mediator's different. Okay. We learned that in business law. And when I say we, that means me too. Okay.
What do unions spend on?
Mostly on political campaigns. They do set some money aside in case there's a strike to help give people money during the strike. But most of it goes towards political campaigns. And you know where most of that money goes, which party that goes to, right?
Well, that's just not fair. It should be an individual's choice if they want to join the union.
Okay, yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about it. We will talk about it when we get to 1947, but let's go ahead and talk about it. Because what about teachers' unions? Lipinski, the National Education Association. So if you're a public school teacher in a union shop, okay, you are forced to join a union in California. You may be a right-wing conservative wacko, right? And you still got to give money to the Democratic Party because that's where all their union dues are going. Wrong. Supreme Court case, Janus, 2017. Public sector unions, government jobs. Doesn't matter what state you're in, you cannot be forced to join a union since 2017. Prior to that, you still had to join a union, and your money went to the Democratic Party.
Is that just for
Public sector. Private sector is union shop or right to work, one or the other. If you want to work for Boeing in Seattle, and there's a union, you got to join. If you don't want to join the union, go work somewhere else. That's the state law. Now, Michigan, which, we're Detroit, where they used to build millions of cars, used to be a union shop. And the average person working on the line at General Motors was making $48 an hour. You got to have a college degree to work on the line at Ford or GM? No, $48 an hour. That's what the union did. And then Bill Clinton signed NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. And guess where those jobs went? Mexico. Where they weren't making $48 an hour on the line. Making more like $10 an hour on the line. Hey, guess what? Michigan is no longer a union shop. Wisconsin, no longer a union shop. They switched. Indiana, no longer a union shop.
What does the business mean?
Having unions?
Yeah.
Well, it's the politicians that vote in the state whether you're going to be a union shop or a free state. So if you're a Democratic politician, listen to me here, okay, and you vote for a union shop, then know that these unions, United Auto Workers, when you run for re-election, they're going to spend money on getting you re-elected. Now, guys, unions have done wonderful things for this country. When we really needed them. At the turn of the century, right? Child labor laws, poor working conditions, right? Safety issues, all kinds of things. Pay, week, work week. these sorts of things, okay? Unions today, can still be very beneficial, okay? But they can also pay, force people, General Motors pay people $48 an hour, which is unsustainable to compete with foreign competition. You know what I mean? Everybody follow that, track that? That's pretty good stuff. All right.
You don't put together a car, you put one piece on a car, and it goes down the line. You do one thing.
I mean, hey, there's honor in work.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
I mean, but Detroit went bankrupt. And the city went bankrupt.
Then you had the Malice Palace.
Now here's a funny political cartoon. Okay. This guy says, if you want more money, upgrade your skills. He says, well, I'm already taking a computer class. I could add another course. He says, here's one that'll help. Introduction to union organizing.
Oh.
Get it? Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I actually didn't get it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, does Jeff Bezos abuse his employees in the warehouse? Have you heard? Oh, yeah. It's bad.
What does he do?
Look, you have, like, the time your order comes in, like, you get an order to fill, you got to put these in boxes and pack them and everything, right? You're on a clock. You're on the clock, and you got to meet your quota. I mean, you got to beat the clock. They give you a certain amount of time. And this goes on all day. I mean, you get order, fill it, and it's like, and then they don't pay you very much. It's kind of a bad place to work. So I can understand why Amazon workers would want to unionize. And I'm like, dude, come on now. Okay, it's a job, and they build these warehouses in semi-rural areas where the economics are depressed. So people need jobs, and they go work at the warehouse. And it's a tough life, man. So, I mean, I totally get that. And Jeff Bezos is freaking getting fat stacks of cash. I mean, like huge fat stacks of cash, right? He ought to pay his people more. And, Walmart really came around on that. I mean, Walmart was kind of like that. They were making all this money and paying their people crap. Actually, Walmart's paying a lot better these days. Okay, and a lot of companies are starting to do that. Okay, so, I mean, that's good. I think we can do this generally without government. We can shame them. You know what I mean? Like the bad media press that Amazon gets from this, if they publicize it, but Amazon's so powerful, maybe the media companies don't really want to say anything bad about it.
Doesn't Bezos own one?
Yes.
He's not CEO though anymore, I thought.
I don't know. It's still have controlling interest. So you have to give half to his wife.
He owns, but he's not CEO.
Okay.
He stepped down.
Yeah.
Amazon should build a
Whatever it is. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we've got to have common sense, right? I mean, now, should you make $30 an hour working in an Amazon warehouse? No. Okay. And you guys don't want to pay too much for your Amazon stuff, do you? You don't want to pay hike in your Amazon Prime membership, do you?
Absolutely not.
You don't want that to go up, do you?
Outrageous.
I love him.
Hey, you chose to work there, that's your problem.
Yeah. I mean,
Nice.
What is it?
It's like 100.
Yeah.
120 now a year?
I just use my mom's.
I use my mom's.
120 years on $10 a month.
Yeah. Well, it's not bad. I mean, you get streaming service, music service, and all that.
And fast shipping.
Imagine if you're on Mars and then.
Why do you do that?
Just to lighten things up a little bit.
Wait, can you go back?
That's Mr. Ebray.
I mean, usually union discussions are really boring. That went pretty well today.
I just don't think.
Okay,
Taking notes.
we've already talked about this a little bit, right? trouble with the Supreme Court. So obviously the NRA, the National Recovery Administration, struck down what we looked at, kind of, maybe that's fascism, okay? To get around this, Roosevelt's going to try and do some creative things, okay? Remember, we were paying farmers under the AAA not to plant food, yes? And we were paying them, not to plant food, okay? Or kill their pigs. So to get around this, they passed, we're going to limit production in the name of soil conservation. Yeah, some of this makes sense, right? Okay, so can any of you guys think of any types of crops that are grown that, because if you just plant corn over and over and over again, it depletes the soil of minerals and nutrients. So you rotate your crops. What do you want to rotate in there to help replenish?
Radish.
Beans, soybeans, okay? Radish, which are grown underground, right? Peanuts, which are grown underground. Stuff that's grown in the soil help, okay? But soybeans is the big one, right? And so, dude, we grow a lot of soybeans in Kansas, yes? And we put those in after wheat, yes? And wheat's pretty hard on the soil. Okay, so then you find uses for this crap, right? For soybeans. Like, did any guys eat the hamburger today from the lunchroom, the cheeseburger?
You can
Okay.
see the chunk of meat.
Listen, I went to Ely one day. I'm like, Ely, what percentage of this is meat? He goes, it's 100% beef. And I'm like, listen, Ely, I've been making hamburgers my whole life and grilling them. And they look nothing like what you put on that piece of bread right there. Of course it's got soybeans in it, okay? I don't know why he told me that.
He lied, he didn't even change.
Oh, he said it's 100% beef.
That's what McDonald's says too.
I mean, now soybeans are good for you, right? Maybe better for you than the beef, yes? I don't know. I think God made cows for a reason, and they weren't for pets,
Thank you.
right? Now, if you want to have one as a pet, you can. They fart a lot and burp a lot.
So we should kill them all.
They are.
Oh, by the way, Britain has stopped serving meat in their school lunches.
We actually.
Why? Climate change.
The cows are not a problem on the planet. There used to be billions of bison that had the exact same system, and now there's
Coming
cows.
from a guy at
No meat.
cow farm, by the way.
Well, I don't know about chicken, but pork, they already took off. You know why they took pork off the menu in Britain?
Oh, 'cause it's not,
Not the Jews,
it's,
the Muslims. So they got rid of pork a while ago. Now it's the beef, and I think all meats.
My sister claims cows would be extinct without human intervention.
That's a good point, by the way, about the buffalo.
Listen, Cohen is just saying all this because he
I don't think
lives on
anyone's
cow farm.
yeah, wait, hold on, he's got skin in the game. You should have trusted him.
I don't think we should listen to any cow
Hey,
conservation.
and by the way,
cow farm.
what's so wrong with CO2?
I think it's carbon monoxide.
Okay, what's
That's
wrong with,
not-
what greenhouse gases? From cows. When you fart, or when you burp as a human being, or when you breathe, what are you breathing out?
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide. And what's wrong with that? Don't we need that?
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that.
The trees absorb.
People just try to use the cows as an excuse. That's what he's saying. They try.
Oh, I know.
I think
Did
it's
you know
more
that
on-
it's something like the automobiles that we drive?
Yeah.
Produce about 7% of the total carbon dioxide?
It's monoxide. that part.
They produce carbon monoxide,
Monoxide.
CO.
which is bad.
CO
That's why
is what
if you
it
have
is.
a car
CO versus
running,
CO2.
car running and
Very
the garage
different.
door down.
So the cows are doing what?
CO.
Monoxide.
They're producing methane.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
cows are methane.
Methane.
We're CO2. They're methane. Cars are CO.
What about when you fart?
That's also methane.
Yeah. So methane's not bad for the environment?
Exhaling, carbon dioxide, farting, burping, methane.
Which one's bad?
Carbon,
CO.
so we have CO2, which is carbon
So we don't do
dioxide.
any CO?
Because carbon dioxide, trees take the carbon and give us the
They
oxygen.
give us.
Well, what's all this crap about cows?
Exactly.
It's
about
just,
that.
it's
There-
information
now
we
you
put
got
out there to distract
Now
from
you
the real
got
problem.
Well, wait, AOC said, wait a second, AOC said,
You're a smart guy, Mr. Ebright, you figure it out.
it's the cows. Now, it takes a lot of carbon dioxide to make the feed those cows.
And carbon
Takes a
dioxide.
lot or produces a lot?
I don't,
Yes,
I don't think
produce.
you know what
Look,
you're
growing,
doing.
growing big fields is just a carbon dioxide sink. So it's just-
I'm gonna be going.
Yes. You're making too much sense, Ella.
Because every single tree is just a giant stick of carbon. So it's like they take up the carbon and the
Yeah,
carbon
it's a
dioxide.
carbon sink,
So plant more trees.
Yes.
correct?
California redwoods, the giant stick of carbon.
It's just,
So have we solved climate change?
it's
Yes.
all the
Oh.
Plant trees.
Have we solved it?
No,
Do
it's
I not
actually-
have any tree huggers in here? Give me some.
No, it's,
We haven't even talked about big business and their pollution. Pollution is a big issue in climate.
Okay, what kind of pollution, like
Like smog and stuff like that.
from your car?
Not even cars, I say big business. That's why no one wants to take care of it, because it's gonna be expensive, because you have to cut big business.
So like Cook Industries, like the building over there, like heating and cooling it?
Like factories.
Oh, where's the closest factory? Where, in here? What are we talking about? The Tyson chicken plant or?
no, you know, like,
And America.
Are you talking about coal?
yes, they're talking about coal.
China and India, it's China and India, not really. it's not
You know,
really-
we've really lowered ours.
Yeah, ours
Yeah.
is getting better, and we're taking steps a lot more steps.
Yeah.
But like China and India, we
No.
don't even produce enough
See,
to
what's,
like really change anything in China and India.
And you know what I've heard? It's too late anyway.
it's too late.
No, that's what my buddy, who's a geologist, that's like a big climate change.
No.
He used to be a global warming guy, but now he's a climate change guy.
What's the difference?
Have you talked to Hannah about
I was being funny.
Oh, okay.
Because that whole thing didn't work out with the global warming because the numbers didn't match, so they changed it to climate change.
Don't you have?
No, it's actually increasing algae in the water.
Yes.
Have you talked to her about this?
We've talked a lot.
She wears a
Hannah
shirt.
and I talk a lot.
She has a shirt that says hashtag Team Z. And someone said Team Tree. And then I learned a lot, so you could say that to her.
Well, she wants to be a marine biologist. Yeah, we talked, she did a whole slideshow like for free last semester. Okay, like, she didn't even do it for free. She's like,
More than the trees.
Hannah and I get along. Okay, now, let me just throw this one in, okay? You guys know what these are called, these lakes? Great Lakes, right? You know what they used to be?
Glaciers.
They used to be glaciers. Okay, and then the glaciers melted. Did industrialization do that?
Yes.
Oh, it happened before industrialization.
Wait.
So the climate of the earth does warm and heat on its own? That big ball of fire in the sky?
Wait, why
Which
did you
has more impact on global temperatures, the sun or what China and India are doing? Do we factor in the sun to this stuff?
Mr. Ebright, you should have pointed to Kansas and say we used to be.
Yeah, there you can find shells here. But I don't know if that was climate or just like earthquakes and tectonics. Right?
That's not for that reason.
I know.
Okay.
As
Hey,
natural cycles
You
go
know
up.
what Lily learned in science when she was in the Christian school?
What?
Bible.
That the earth was 6,000 years old.
That is true.
Wait.
That doesn't,
We're older than that.
that's so awesome.
6,000?
Wait, they taught
6,000.
Wait, dinosaurs?
Wait,
Where were dinosaurs then?
like,
They were
Have
like
you heard
little
of the young
kids.
earth theory?
No?
See, Lily, none of these people learn that.
Wait, what is this?
That's 64.
I thought I was gonna put that.
What's the theory?
That's just wrong.
The Earth is billions of years.
It's like 64
Now,
million years old.
I didn't
Or at least
get
it's
involved in your.
Like, they would-
Well,
Okay,
okay,
They taught her that.
I couldn't remember what it was.
How is that legal?
Like dinosaurs were like millions of years.
Yeah.
64 million.
Wait, did they
But
say?
the Earth can't be 6,000 years old. You understand?
That's right. It's like the first thing.
The
Wait,
first
Lily,
billion years
Lily,
was cooling rock.
Yeah, I think they don't like it.
Just like
Well, for a long time, I
I
did.
forgot about that point. Part.
Or at least
Some
the
point.
younger.
I'm looking up how old the oldest dinosaur.
I haven't decided.
It's 64
Well,
million
there's a
years.
younger.
I don't think it is.
64 million.
Have you heard that? The young Earth theory? Have you heard that?
What?
The young Earth theory?
I've heard of it.
Oh, is that what it is?
The Earth is 6,000 years old.
How do they even?
Yeah, how
I
do
don't
they
understand,
even-
like, the fossils and everything.
Okay,
Just like it's
So
fake.
how do you know carbon dating is actually a thing? Like, how do you actually know that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, we're doing carbon dating. This is 19 million years old.
We've like written history.
Okay, past 6,000 years?
Yeah. Just the last 2,000
Yeah,
was.
we have
In a Bible.
human.
Just the last 2,000 is all in the Bible.
Yeah, hold on. We have
How are you doing? How are you figuring that? Yeah, I know. The last 2,000
So
was
all you gotta
Bible.
do is add
We have
4,000.
over 1,000
Right.
years of history.
Right.
Like, we have written history for 6,000 years.
No, we don't.
yeah, we
That's
do.
what I was
I
asking.
What do you got?
guarantee it.
Cave dwellings? Clay, cave, like,
Yeah.
Do they?
when did Herodotus write?
What?
Harambe's code. I'm gonna look up Harambe's code.
Harambe?
230 million
You know
years ago.
Harambe's code? You're literally a history teacher.
Yeah.
What is that?
Literally, I teach 20th century American history.
Andrew, it's Hammurabi, not Harambe.
Harambe's the gorilla.
It's close enough.
Everyone
Everyone knew what I meant.
It's the oldest like bone structure we have.
Everyone knew what I meant, alright? Everyone knew what I meant.
What?
Oldest structure we've
How do you know?
Where was that found? In China?
Turkey.
Turkey.
It's like go back like 10 years.
Now, how do they know it was 12,000 years?
Well, I
Exactly how
don't
they
know.
date
They take, I think carbon dating works as they can.
The half-life
like, find the layers
Of
of the rock, and then they
And
can
you
like.
count the layers.
Like a tree, like tree ring?
Yes.
That's
No,
not how
it's
that
like-
works.
No, it is like tree rings. No, it is. Yes.
No, that's the whole thing.
Scientists, that is how.
We trust this carbon dating, but
Okay, listen, you're done.
It's chemical reaction.
Like,
yes,
it's like Harambe's code.
but
So apparently it's stuck.
there is evidence.
Maybe we can.
It's evidence. Yeah, but how do you trust?
He's a-
Like, you can't really, like, where's this logic?
I'm not saying that.
Why do you know that?
Play devil's
This is a man you believe.
advocate. This is what you-
Believe that you're own. What is Christian?
There are many Protestants that
Damn, okay, Alex.
We literally have.
No, I was just asking, I was like, why does it make the Christians? No,
I mean, my own-
I wasn't attacking you, I was attacking the school debate.
You see what I'm not.
I love
Carbon
I'm good at it.
I just stayed out of it when my kids were in school. I talked to my wife about it. She's like, I'm just not gonna say anything. Sorry, Lois.
Carbon dating works
And,
by
hey,
measuring.
maybe we can
School is
do
stupid.
some research on this.
Oh my god, are we really gonna go there?
It's
What?
measuring.
You being mean to my daughter?
Yes.
Don't.
Alright.
Lily, have you
I have
ever
a
been
question.
Carbon
That is
is
so
chemical by
much
every
less.
living thing, so the amount of carbon in something should tell you.
She's
how-
crying. You're
All I said was your school is stupid. I didn't say it. It's a school. I'm sorry.
You made Lily cry?
Dude, Andrew, you would have failed the class.
Wait,
Yeah,
I
you're
have
gonna
a
drop
question.
the third place.
What is the first match for government contracting work?
40.
Oh, I'm laughing.
What?
Labor.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Alright.
max
Oh my
hours.
god, okay.
We should probably.
Class is
Alright.
over.
Lily, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have brought that up.
Well, Lily, wait, what? What did I do?
I'm so worried.
Andrew,
Video over.
Well, that's over anyway.
you could end that video about 15 minutes.
Andrew, see me after class.